Visual novels are a style of game unlike any other, a mix of book and audiobook with some gameplay elements attached. Ever since rediscovering my love for the genre through 999 a few years ago, I have made sure to play some of the best and most interesting ones I could find. So when I saw Death End Request on the shelf in my local game store, the cover art intrigued me and the server convinced me by telling me the premise of the story. So let's see if Death End Request is worth it. Death End Request was released in 2018 by a company called Compile Heart, a subsidiary of Idea Factory. Their first game, Astonishia Story, is interesting, and I'll definitely have to talk about that one day, but they are mostly known for their Hyperdimension Neptunia series, and maybe for their Agorist of War series as well. Without realizing it, I actually own quite a few of their games, and many others have been on my radar for a long time. This company is known for their nice artwork and, well, emphasis on a few things in their designs. But Death End is not tied to any other series in any way outside of the signature art style. In this game you play as Sheena, where at the start of the game she is fighting this huge monster. Too bad it's just too powerful and it kills you, ending your quest. We just saw the first Death End. Yep, you heard me right, the first. The next thing we know, Sheena wakes up confused with no memory, so she sets out on a new quest. But everything is not as it appears in Odyssey, a virtual world, and it's all buggy and glitchy. At the same time, we also play as Arata, a game programmer in the real world. He helped code the virtual reality game, but after Sheena, his co-worker, went missing a year ago, they canned the project. That is until he gets a strange email that someone is active in Odyssey. Arata finds Sheena and they work together in order to try and solve the mysteries both in the game and out of it. They're also trying to find where Sheena is in order to get her out of the game. But can they do it? What is causing all of these glitches? Why is Sheena alive and what has she been doing for the last year? Let's hope it all doesn't result in another Death End. Death End Request is a visual novel and action RPG hybrid. Whilst an RPG generally has a lot of story anyway, it seems natural to fuse these two styles of gameplay. The story is the main focus of the game, definitely not the RPG, because the story will interrupt you every chance it gets. Take 5 steps, hey, let's have a bit of story. After you finish a fight, let's have another 20-minute story. Hey, you just thought about doing something else, let's have more story. And each story segment can be pretty long sometimes, and they also offer different choices. So like I said, throughout the game you will get plenty of choices, and in these choices they usually have a good and bad decision. Choosing the bad one will almost always result in a death end. And I hope you saved, because then you have to reload in order to continue from your last choice. You can save before nearly every choice, so it is not a big deal if you just remember to do so before actually committing to a choice. The choices are pretty obvious which one will lead to a death end, so it isn't too hard, but you may want to get these death ends anyway. As you see these endings, you can unlock new things, such as accessories from your heroines, and even though you reload your save, it's tied to the system data, so you get to keep it. The other main gameplay element is the form of exploration and battle. Now, exploration is pretty simple. Walk to the next marker on your map in order to trigger a cutscene. You can also explore a little bit to find items and weapons that aren't on the beaten path, so there's a little bit of reward. But to be honest, it isn't that much though, and I do wish there was just more to do in the world. There isn't even any NPCs in the game, so the world can feel pretty empty. Thankfully though, the battles aren't random in this game, which is great. Instead, you see an enemy on the screen and they will usually chase after you running a marathon, but they can be easy to avoid. Now for the battle system itself, you can pick up to 3 party members to have in your team. They each have their own element of star, sun or moon, as well as their own attacks and skills. As you can see, fights are in an open arena, and when it is your turn, you can run anywhere you'd like on the map to best set up your own attack and skills. From there you select 3 skills and then do them in order. Some of these attacks cause knockback, which will send the enemy flying like a game of billiards. This will cause it to take damage if it hits anything in its flight, from walls or other enemies. This could also be insane because if there's lots of enemies, they just crash into one another, just destroying each other. And if they hit another party member, you can also launch them again. Now you will need to get good with this strategy, as that's the best way to deal damage to your opponents. Lastly, there are field bugs on the floor. Each of these will cause some kind of different effect, positive and negative, and they will also let you regain SP, which is for your special attacks, so it's a little bit of risk reward here. Regardless of what they do, touching them will make you take damage, but increase your glitch percentage. Now, if you ever hit 80% of this meter, you will glitch out, and this increases your stats and increases your fan service. All of these costumes are super crazy. It's so weird. This also adds an extra move as a combo finisher, dealing huge damage. But if you ever hit 100% glitch, well, you just die. So that's another risk reward. Finally, Arata can help you in battle with some game code attacks. These use different genres like a fighting game or a first-person shooter to deal damage. I never use them because they suck. They control awkwardly and their damage output is just really tiny compared to my massive billiard attacks. Overall, the battles are fairly simple and easy to grasp, and most enemies aren't too hard until the later part of the game where they become damage sponges. But with the various party members and their unique skills, I always felt like I had options. The problem is, I didn't find the battles all that fun. Sure, at first, it was all good because it was all new, but as the game went on, most enemies become either too easy or have way too much HP, so I'd have to chip away at them for like an hour. It took forever. It didn't actually take an hour, but it just felt like that. And this is true even when they didn't pose a threat to me, they just had a stupid amount of HP. Boring. This felt like the game was just wasting my time, but I couldn't avoid too many fights, otherwise I'd be underleveled when it came to a boss, because those are challenging. So boring fights it is then. At least there is another thing to do in the battles. By using skills in a certain combination, you can unlock new, more powerful skills. But doing that will drain your SP, and there is not a guaranteed chance that you will get a new move. And with how far away camps can be, I found a little bit tedious by the end of the game to try and learn all the moves. So when I bought this game, I didn't know much about it, and soon came to learn that this game caters to a specific audience. While that is not inherently bad, it just was not what I was expecting. I don't know why Japan has this obsession with 2D waifus, and guess what? The game has jiggle physics in only one area. You can guess where. Nearly every main character is a female, and of course the main male is the one that they all adore, and he's just completely oblivious. It's such a common trope, and I'm not a big fan of it. Lastly, in the glitch mode, where they go through that Sailor Moon transformation, only to end up with no clothes on, it's just so much fan service, but if you don't mind that, then yeah, it's fine. So the reason I kept playing though is for the story. I swear, it is legitimately interesting. There are so many strange and almost supernatural things happening in both worlds, and figuring it out is pretty fun. I also thought the script and voice acting were pretty good, but the presentation can be lacking at times. It is very static, there is very little movement from characters and fewer facial expressions than I thought there would be. There's even long stretches of just black with text on it. That's not visually appealing at all. In most of the visual novels I've played up until this point, when something exciting happens, it cuts to a new picture, a CG, to show you what's going on. This helps you keep engaged, and they can show you some new artwork, but here they were very few and far between, which makes some stretches of the game a little bit more boring. So by the end, I had guessed 2 of the plot twists, but I had nothing on the main one. Didn't even cross my mind. It kinda comes out of nowhere, and it makes the game a little bit ridiculous. Also, the main villains aren't explained or executed very well. One of them is just doing evil just because? And aside from setting things in motion, their motivations aren't super clear. I guess aside from maybe rule the world kinda crap, but that doesn't even make sense in context of these people. I'm honestly not sure how I feel about it after I finished it. I was intrigued the entire way through, but I don't know if the payoff was good. For a game that has so much story and explanation, a lot of the ending was skimmed. It's such a shame. I feel like they weren't 100% sure if they knew what to do, or maybe it didn't translate to English well. I'm not sure. So just an aside, I originally wrote this script in March of 2020. Yeah, it takes me a super long time to write a script and talk about a game after I play it because I'm really bad at uploading, but I'm trying to do better. Anyway, I had no idea that there was going to be a sequel to this, and in retrospect, a lot of the ending parts and story were setting up a sequel, so, you know, past me is an idiot. While that game is a little bit more standalone, there are aspects that are continued which made this story even more interesting. Damn, it's such an intriguing story. So I just thought I'd mention it. Now, in my opinion, Death End Request is not worth it. Due to the fairly long, boring combat, the very repetitive nature of the game, and the lack of really anything to do. It's just run to the next story point with a side room along the way that might have a treasure box in it. The world is populated with enemies that you can kill and avoid, but that's about it. There's no NPCs or towns or anything else to do aside from walking to the next story point. But that story, which is the main focus, is pretty decent. It had me hooked from the start, but the payoff was not what I expected. The thing is though, when I heard they were making a part 2, I pre-ordered it straight away because I wanted to see where this crazy story could go. So let that tell you how I feel about this game. So if any of this has interested you, perhaps you should watch all the cutscenes somewhere just to get the story. It will save you quite a bit of time. So guys, what did you think about Death End Request? Did you like it? Did you hate it? And who was your favorite character? I really like Silica. I think her design was cool, her personality was fun, and she just gave off some really cool and collected vibes and has the biggest sword of the bunch. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!